Hi, this is not so much a show as an introduction to how shows are going to be in the future. I don't know about you, but I'm done with most media. The things I get sent on a daily basis have no interest to me whatsoever. 30 seconds in, I'm done. Everyone talking about podcasts that go on for hours and hours and hours. And when we have the ventriloquist dummy, Douglas Murray, promoted to us as this great voice of freedom, well, this is post-truth irony. So I actually wasn't going to do a show tonight because I'm working in the background on a lot of new stuff. I don't want you to get bored, and I certainly will never get bored. Great quote at the beginning, actually, from Alexander, and it made me look up the quote. It's from a film called The Demon Seed, and the quote is, "I, Proteus, possess the wisdom and ignorance of all men." Well, what we have around us at the moment is massive ignorance. But I looked up some quotes from that film on IMDb, and there's one quote at the top, and it says, "What now, Susan? No more soap opera?" And that is exactly what I've been thinking. I don't want any more soap opera. I'm done with it. And also been going back into the shows from years ago and finding out the solutions and the enthusiasm that I had that things could change on this global to local agenda. But of course, that is a long time ago, very far away, and it never happened. And interestingly, I got an email just before this live stream, and it's all about how the future can be better, some new age word salad. And it was really interesting because everything that they said about life and the way that they assume your life is at the moment, as though you've got all these pressures and problems, doesn't apply to me at all. Because the whole purpose of the lifelong learning project is you throw that off and you focus on what is actually important. When you focus on what is actually important, then your whole life changes. And that's another thing, isn't it? Of course, there's all these internet philosophers and these retarded stuff like Eckhart Tolle and all this new age stuff. And you think, is this for babies? Have I missed something? It was interesting, actually, because a few things have come together. I really wasn't actually going to do a show this evening. I was just going to do a test because I've had so much trouble with the audio on the last few weeks. So hopefully you can hear it all out there. And if it's not good enough, I'll change the mic. But I think it's just interference that I'm getting, something to do with the internet. So yeah, tonight is just really outlining where things are going to go. Every now and again, I do this. I like to take stock of all the stuff we've been putting out over the years, make sure it goes somewhere, because I don't know about you, but I am so sick of content-free content. People sending me this stuff. I don't want to see any of it ever again. So when I did the Protocols of Power, it was a new way of focusing information into a series of statements which would actually trigger the brain into some kinds of action and learning, and also a gateway to more knowledge. So in other words, simplifying something so that you can expand on it. And that's what this is all about, lifelong learning project. Everyone is sending me stuff which seems to be in arrested development. You get the occasional good thing, but those days are gone. The internet now is pretty much awash with absolute garbage. And when people are watching these podcasts that go on for 2 or 3 hours and sending them to me, said, "Oh, they mentioned you on this one. It's the biggest podcast in the world." And you're listening to it and you're going, "This is just a couple of people in a pub. This is not information." It's two people having a conversation that years ago in a pub you'd think, yeah, it's reasonably interesting. Oh, that wasn't a bad night, was it? No, it wasn't too bad, but it was a Monday. That's how I feel about this stuff now. I can't listen to it. So yeah, it was interesting actually, because I found a text called the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, and it's all allegedly about Jesus when he was a little boy, and he was quite naughty and he played around with people, and he said things that were very profound, and he shocked those around him. And one of these rabbis got quite annoyed with him, and Mary and Joseph are trying to kind of remonstrate with this rabbi. It's quite interesting actually, because it's a side that we've never seen of Jesus in these stories. And this, when he's 5 years old, he turns round and he says to this group, he says, "I was playing with you because I know you're small minded and amazed with small things." So what he'd done, he'd done some small feat of miraculous manifestation, and he'd healed a few people. But what he was getting at was that they were really impressed with something that was extremely trivial. So I thought that was a great quote. Actually, my favorite quote in the whole thing. I was actually thinking of doing a show on it, but I don't think there's enough in there really. But it's worth looking up. It's called the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. I'd never actually heard of it before. Thank you, Stuart. The audio's better. Yeah, that's really good, because when I look back at the podcasts and obviously listening to them, the audio on them's all good. And when I get one like last week with the King Arthur show, it really irritates me because I'm very aware of sound, working in studios for years, and I always love silence. And when you hear that, you think, actually, it sounds terrible. And people say, well, it's not as bad as you think. But to me, it's pretty bad. So I'm glad that's sorted out. Yeah. So really, the idea of these shows now is going to be to carry on from shows such as the Protocols of Power, because I think I can actually improve on that now. And just to give you another quote from the Demon Seed, this is also quite prescient. Death is a gentleman too. He makes good losers of us all. I understand death. Men have always taken it too seriously. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I think that what happens is, as you get older and you get nearer to death, you start hopefully putting things into perspective. That's the whole idea of the concept of wisdom, isn't it? That somehow the trivia falls away. But we're in a time of endless trivia, and I don't see the trivia falling away with a lot of people. And that's why I really want to go on to stuff that I was doing and expand on it, like the perfected minefield. The perfected minefield to me is really profound stuff. And you can look at that. It's a playlist on our YouTube channel. Take a look at it. But still, I get sent this stuff that is so banal. And some of these people, they say, oh, do listen to the show, and I tried it. And I just can't believe it. But I know that most of the people who are listening to the live streams, and the majority who are regularly sending me stuff, really get where these shows are going. And there's really no point in just contributing to this chatter that is going on everywhere now. Yeah, so thinking outside the box, that's my main issue with what's going on, is that it's repetition, 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 the 3 R's, you know. But being able to know what is in the box is, of course, the key to getting out of the box. And over the years, that's been the most important thing, because groups, egregors, you know, group think, and the way that it forms these minefields of people. And of course, that's what the communitarian system's all about. It just entraps you, and then it gives you the two lies. Are you for this or against it? Well, we've got the answer for you. We always had the answer, and that is where we're going with it anyway. We just wanted to make it look as though you had some input. You know, the top-down idea of community, which is meant to be grassroots, which merely is a top-down imposition from above that masquerades as you, the community. And I just see that everywhere. And of course, that system's been in for about 15 years, really. And all of this media that we see, which reports day-to-day incidents, events, etc., which they call the news cycle, is all written by people trained in that. So it really doesn't matter if they are replaced with AI. And that's another thing, that a lot of these commentators that we have now, like Douglas Murray, the ventriloquist dummy, he could be replaced by AI. That is a programmed bot. And it's very depressing to see that that is promoted as some voice of freedom, when it's obviously completely, transparently obvious, actually, that he's a shill. And there's so many of those that you know what lobbying groups they've come from, you know which democracy in the Middle East that they are trained to support and promote. And I think it's gone beyond that now, because my idea of it all is to actually completely get away from that, and not even engage with it. And that's really, the purpose of sort of unraveling this stuff in this stream. Somebody sent me a message on our Discord channel, and I posted this article, And it was where I got a council website removed. I think I averred to it in a show a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about this stuff, that somebody had been photographed by NSL because they wouldn't pay a fine. And the council had then put a picture of her up saying, we want to fine this lady. We've got a fine for her. Well, one, a council can't issue a fine. Two, she hadn't been to court. And three, the council official is not indemnified to put pictures up of people and call them most wanted. And at this time, I'd actually brought down Crime Stoppers most wanted, which was, I'm still amazed that no journalist or media, alternative or mainstream, was even interested in the fact that the policemen could have been, and in some cases had been found out, that's true, maliciously putting people onto Crime Stoppers who weren't wanted. Yeah, two PCSOs got locked up for it because they maliciously put somebody on there who was not wanted. And it happened to somebody I know, and I brought that down. So I was quite confident by the time I got to this point of this council imposition. And I phoned up the person who put the picture up there, and he was so proud of himself, so proud of himself. And he terminated the conversation. And I wrote to the CEO of the council, and within 24 hours, that website had gone. Everything to do with it had disappeared. And of course, these are the things that you go, well, that was quite gratifying. In other words, a little bit of knowledge can be a very dangerous thing to them. And that's all it takes, a little bit of knowledge. That's what I've been saying for years. And at one point, yes, I was enthusiastic that people would take up this kind of real community activism, because the idea of the community activism, the fake grassroots stuff, is that imposes it on you, but then you can turn it around, impose it on them. In fact, somebody who I thought was on the side of talking about this communitarian system actually went behind my back to one of my friends and sent them some very insulting propaganda. And he sent it, my friend sent it to me. And I thought, that's interesting, because I was always suspicious about that person. But what they'd done is they'd lied. They'd basically tied me to someone I wasn't involved with and I didn't even know about. And then they'd said that this person who'd made this claim about me, they said I'd copied them. Well, nothing of the sort had ever happened. And this is the interesting thing, I think, that this whole idea of this grassroots activism and what I've been exposing is very, very simple to do. And people out there, they still don't get it. And they will want to attack people who put this out, even if they believe they're on the same side, because they don't understand how simple it is. And that is one thing I got really fed up with in the dealings with the media and people who were meant to be putting stuff out and going somewhere. And I think it's a good thing that you get, over the years, all of these things happening through the courts. I was getting information about what was happening years and years ago, and that's where the shows really started. They came from that sort of thing. And then you get this sort of feeling of empowerment about it all, because the system is really, really simple. There is nothing complicated going on at all. It's heavily biased against the individual. It's all about collectivism and what is for the common good. And that, of course, means that innocent people get locked up regularly, because that covers up for the institutions behind them. And of course, that's always gone on. But in this new system, that is very, very obvious. And yeah. So yeah, I thought that was funny, because yes, the lady said the enthusiasm you had as more people at that time were starting to understand and send you good information, how that is now a thing of the past. And in a way, I'm kind of laughing at it, because when I listen to those shows, I've got this zeal about doing it, but you have to have that to do it in the first place. But I think the whole purpose of this broadcast, say, well, we're kind of beyond that now. The people who get it, and those who don't never will. But I said in response to that, I'm still enthusiastic, but not about the public taking any action or responsibility. It's more on how to avoid them and keep learning and improving. And that, to me, has been a fantastic thing, because over the years, getting a lot of harassment, getting involved in things, and getting extremely disappointed by the lack of commitment. You see, there's people who give and there's people who take. What we see now, even within the media sphere, is most of them are parasites. They're actually creating content out of nothing. They don't have content. And this idea of content, it seems to imply that it doesn't matter what you're saying, just say something. Well, the whole idea of it is it has to have absolute value. I would never say anything that didn't have absolute value. That's the interesting thing, that it just seems to be about all parasitism. Everything is just feeding off it's what's around it, feeding off each other, basically. And that's why I need to sort of redefine everything to do with the shows so that they always go in this very positive direction. I hope this is making sense to you. It was just a test broadcast, really. And the shows will now be every Monday. I think that's a better time to do the shows. And also, I will be putting out some of the archive onto this YouTube channel because people have asked me to do that. In the sort of idea, I suppose, the idea of it is that I could put down edited versions of some of the shows with just the main points in that people wanted to share, because the back catalogue within the Spreaker archive is huge. There's well over 400 shows in there, and it's actually quite hard to find stuff because they've all got these titles which are not very easy. They're not very easy to find if you're looking for something, because they've got catchy titles, but the content in them has been a little bit forgotten about. So I'm going to be going through that as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's direct action. That's what I was going to talk about. This direct action thing. I think it's so important because the learning about the way the system worked and the audacity of going back against it within this style of what they do of community is so important. I think it's one of the most important things of our times, and it's the most easy template to actually take apart. So I will be carry on covering that in some ways. And I actually sent this response to this person who was basically a troll, and maybe they're being paid off now or something, I don't know. But I sent this response, and I did it with the Saul Alinsky rules, to go and call them out on their hypocrisy. So everything they said, I attacked with one of the rules, which basically means that you hold them strictly to their own rule system. You hold people strictly to their belief and rule system. And if they go outside that, or there's a slight hypocrisy, you slam into them about it. And it's actually a really good way of dealing with these people, even if it's on a council or local officials or government officials. It's the way to get them. And I was talking about this for so long, I don't really want to talk about it anymore. It was interesting that a friend of mine wanted me to do a series on communitarianism, but I've kind of already done it. But what I will do is I'll put these principles into ways that are useful, because this is just a lifelong learning project now. And I'm at the point of it where I've found it really useful. Everything that is put out in the shows I've used in my life and found useful. And I know that other people have found that as well. That is the thing. That is the most important thing. And it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. Yeah. Yes. To focus solely on what's important. Yes, like the media chatter from all sides is repetitive. And in my view, now it's completely pointless. I'm so beyond it. I don't know about you, but I can't watch any more of this crap anymore. I'm done with it all. So, yeah, and once the drivers of events are known and the system is understood, what more do you need to know? Nothing. You can move on with kind of development. And I have to be careful when I use the word self-development, because that often means me, me, me. It's all about me. And this is the thing. I don't know whether you found this, but I kind of have this enthusiasm, and when I'm in the mood to do things, I do them like 120%. But I find that if you start doing that around people now, you're going, oh God, are they ever going to catch up, or do they really want to do this? And that's a real problem as well. The getting over apathy, the apathy that people have. And that apathy can actually manifest itself as a kind of activism. And a lot of the activism is just apathy, because it's never going to get anywhere. It's like engaging a community to do something which is a total distraction. And there is so much of that going on, and people getting involved with these media characters. And this, I think it's quite funny actually, that there's people who actually have channels which wouldn't be there if it wasn't for other channels that they're parasiting off, or for characters that they're purportedly supporting. And it's all eating itself. It's a complete waste of time. And I'm trying to get to shows that are going to be so way beyond that, and hopefully they all have been. Mm. So this is from the Protocols of Power, and the reason I'm reading this out is because I'm working on this audio book. I think that's one of the reasons that I've been so focused and really trying to hone in on the best things to do, because I've been putting together the audio book, which will be out soon, which you'll be able to download. And also I've got an idea for a couple of films, and that's where I find the enthusiasm. It's actually in creating stuff, putting it together. But this is a quote from that. All citizens are to be the product of implanted information. This information is not about expanding knowledge, but limiting argument and opposition to the accepted opinion corridor and enforcing ideology. The preferred new human is a slave to emotions and implanted beliefs. They will hear propaganda in sound bites and slogans and repeat them. In this management system, there are the real and the stated goals. Everything to do with enforcement and control has to be presented as a benefit or a necessary action. The public are coerced into accepting control through a belief that the control is actually a benefit. And that is all that you need to know about the global to local system. Of course, then you need to know how and when to act and take things apart. And this is not just about some form of activism, it's about how you deal with things in daily life, because it's incredibly empowering to know how simple things work. Like that quote from Jesus at the beginning, he was amazed that people were so engrossed and fascinated and amazed by things that were actually very, very simple and banal. And that is what I see. It's the cult of nothing, the cult of mediocrity. We've done so many shows on that, but the cult of nothing and the cult of mediocrity are the present. That's exactly what's happening, isn't it? So, yes, the solution has always been very simple, and the solution appears when you know what the problem actually is. It's in your reaction to the problem which brings the solution. And I found that, I mean, it's so simple, isn't it? Again, it's so simple, but it's almost profound, because everyone just waffles around the issue now. The solution is to reduce the consequence of imposition on your immediate environment. And that's where it starts. That's really important, you know, to get rid of all the crap that's around you. Because I think that the COVID plan was brilliant for that. It meant, oh, can get rid of that one, can get rid of that one. These are people, but they're also ideologies, and they're also infringements. And when I think about it, it's, as I said in previous shows, I think it's been the fork in the road was a magnificent thing. The globalists did a real favor there for me anyway. I just thought it was fantastic. And the solution is to avoid being drawn into energy draining affairs of no consequence. The solution is real knowledge over repeated groupthink. The solution is not in any mass movement, as they are all steered and controlled. The solution is not getting harvested and controlled whilst having the knowledge of how things are working. The solution is knowing the real goals underneath the stated goals. The solution is not looking for some big event or movement to change things for you. That is part, and the big part, of the problem. Of course, that's what we see, isn't it? How many people are following this Tommy Robinson thing? How many people are doing that? Some people have channels with hundreds of thousands of people on there, and that's all they do is talk about him. And of course, he put himself into prison because the judge said if you show that film in public, that's that's perverting the course of justice. Not perverting the course of justice. It was actually contempt of court, wasn't it? But in a way, it was perverting the course of public justice, according to the judge. But the point is that documentary, Silence, was really good. It put the truth out there. But what is productive about putting yourself in prison? And he's got everything he wants in prison. And then he's saying, Tommy's in solitary confinement. He's a political prisoner. He's been tortured. No, he's not. he's got computers in there. He can talk to anyone he wants. They cut his phone calls down from 13 hours a day to 4 hours or something. I was just listening to, I just couldn't believe it. I thought there's people who are working who are much worse off than that. And this is incredible, but that's just an example. But this group thing is never gone away. And I think that the whole communitarian thing that I've tried to explain is to get people away from that. And of course, we saw it with the protests against COVID and all that. I mean, it was the COVID protest social engineers and the agents of revolution articles at winnersontheworld.net are just the template for this globalist imposition. And it's simple. It's simple, really simple. So once you know how things work, the solution should appear if you have any first-hand knowledge of what it is and who is imposing it. So yes, this comment, so what is the solution, is from the mind of those who have become dependent on others giving them the answers they want to hear. Again, going back to the fake heroes. In other words, a simple action that requires little or no thought that is followed without question. That's the problem. That's the problem. So the solution is hearing what you need to hear, not what you think you want to hear. It seems that the word solution means to most a template which can be passed around to all, the collectivism. And that happened with the so-called alternative media. It just got collectivized into a cycle of nothing. And that is really what I've been saying in those shows. So once you've said all this stuff and you've put it out there, where do you go from there? Well, I suppose you can hone it down and you can put out slightly more specialist information. But what I'm trying to do now is go forward with these shows for those who are interested enough to find it useful, to apply it and to expand on it. That's the whole purpose of it. It's a knowledge thing. It's not to get trapped into these two lies arguments, which the media has now all disappeared into. So that was the purpose of this little broadcast, to let you know that the audiobook will be out soon. I'm working on these projects and I'm going to put out selected material from the archive along with these live streams. So the live streams will be a mixture of history, these philosophical ideas that usurp the problem, and the perfected minefield stuff, which I found fascinating. But as I said, once you've said pretty much everything clearly, where do you go from there? That's what this was all about. It's me thinking while I'm talking to you of the future of what these shows are actually going to be. And by next week, you will find that there will be some more stuff that's going to be uploaded, and there'll be more information on the audio book, and that will be coming out soon. So do keep sending in the information and do support the show, because I want to put out so much stuff. I think that the purpose of this also is that the last couple of weeks I've been seriously trying to find new avenues, break on through to the other side. You know, like as Jim Morrison said that, didn't he? Yeah, break on through to the other side. And I think that's really very exciting, because it's not the constraints that interest me anymore. Once you know the solution and the way around it, it's the ultimate empowerment, and it goes beyond anything that's going to get in the way. And that's really what I'm finding interesting about this exploration of information. So if that makes any sense to you, great. And do stay in touch through the website. Keep sending stuff in. I'm working on things for the future. And yeah, brilliant. I will be back here every Monday now. That's going to be every Monday. It will be 8 p.m. GMT. And the shows are then in the Spreaker archive if you want to download them as MP3s. And they're also on our Odyssey channel. So that's the information which I wanted to get to you tonight, which is about basically the way future shows are going to be. So I hope that was useful, and I will have a look at the comments. So that's it. I'll see you all next week. Those that want to send in information, please do. So thanks a lot.